Good afternoon. I think the best way to start is to ask you a question so that you wake up. The question is, if we had stopped producing food today, if the growers went home and said, I'm not going to till the land anymore tomorrow, how long will the food last? Take a wild guess.
3 days.
3 days? Not that bad. Any other guess? 1 day? It's even worse than that. A month? Okay. So the last time I calculated was about 6 or 7 months back in one of the World Economic Forum presentation. That was 42 days. Okay. So if we stopped agriculture today, our food will last only 42 days. And that's not a great situation for this world. So with this, let me try to jump in and create the context of today's talk. This is the world population, right? APAC, we can be proudly on the top. We did pretty well in increasing our population. Thankfully, this is the percentage of the arable land. And we are all fortunate to be living in India, which has 53% as the arable land. Most of other countries are much lower. Arable land, or hectares per person, per capita land. You can see from Canada down to Japan, 0.033, kind of shrunk into a small piece on the plate. So, how did we, as a community, as a human community, basically take care of the situation and create food and generate food to basically feed all this mouth? It's a mechanization, right? It's the information technology. It's the technology itself on the ground and on the people and on the servers on the network, right? So you can see China, 59 machines in every 100 square kilometer, India 102, Brazil 139, Canada 157, USA 246. Can you take a guess how many do we have in Japan? In a 100 square kilometer, how many machines are there in Japan? Take a wild guess, please. Sorry? 500? Okay. 4,642 machines in Japan. And that is the reason why the country, in spite of having so many constraints, is able to feed its population, is able to generate much higher quality of agriculture products, is able to export it and feed the world. And that's exactly where we need to head. We need to step up to our responsibility to make sure that the guys who are on the ground, on the field, under the weather, tilling the soil, they get the service required to generate the food for tomorrow, for our kids and their kids to come. So, and now I look at Asia-Pac. I'm the regional CIO for Asia-Pac for Syngenta. So I just limit my talk to Asia-Pac, right? So the red part here is Asia-Pac. Now what are the typical challenges when my team goes into Asia-Pac and tries to deliver a solution? We got a large number of growers, almost 500 million, 452 million growers in Asia-Pac. Okay? This is a completely unorganized sector in Asia-Pac. Very low on education. You think you will be telling them about what to do, how to do, following the protocols? Half of them will not even understand it. They are not qualified for borrowing. Imagine how they're strapped financially, right? They can't go to a bank like you and I and take a loan because they don't have the credit history. They have unreliable infrastructure. The network, the services, and all this supply chain that we talk about very proudly and talk about the efficiency kind of fails in this particular sector, right? And to top it up, the multi-language which we have in Asia-Pac. So many different languages that we can't even work together in unison. We can't even work together as one population. So that's the Asia-Pac challenges. And how do we now overcome these challenges to reach out to our growers and make sure that we give them what they need to generate what we need on our plate every day? So what we did is, when I joined Syngenta, the very basic thing which I did is, we flipped the whole model as to how should we look at our business, from being a company-centric to being customer-centric, okay? So this was the original model that we had, the company in the center, and we have our channel partners, the competitors, the customers, and the regulatory bodies around it. And then we flipped it. We said, no, this is not how it's going to work. This is how it's going to work. Our customer is at the center, and we are one of the players with the other players in the market. And that comprises of the financial institutions, the regulatory bodies, insurance providers, market, government, the channel partners, and also the competitors. Sometimes we go along with the competitor to deliver a solution onto the ground. The question is, how do we do this transition? How do we move from this old to the new? And that's where we needed a transformation. And that transformation is digital. That's the digital transformation that Syngenta is going through today. And in Asia-Pac, that's what we are driving as a team. And in this particular journey, Fujitsu is our partner, and I'm extremely happy to say that Fujitsu knows what they do, and it's not there just. They also know how to do it. And I'm extremely happy to show you some of the results which we got out of this. So a little bit of talk on the emergence of connectivity. You know this, but just to create the context, you know about the machine-to-machine integration, right? We moved over to the IoTs, the Internet of the Things. And then we have suddenly found ourselves now in the Internet of everything. You're human beings, even animals, systems, and data. We are all connected. That's how this world is today. That's how the world will get mature tomorrow and further. So within this ecosystem, what's happening? What has been envisioned by Da Vinci in 1451 is actually coming true, right? This is the robot that he drew on a piece of paper. And what we have today is robots like this on the assembly line. You have seen a fantastic picture on Andy's presentation on how the robots are working on an assembly line. Same here, right? This is a robotic setup to run an amputation on a person, which can be done very well, much effectively, with reduced cost and less number of errors, right? Here is a machine which is working on the field, doing what it's supposed to do with a more and higher precision than what we can do as human beings. And this is an unmanned vehicle spraying either water or the chemicals required, the pesticides and the fungicides. So this is an era where the machines are literally taking over our work, which we used to do 10 years back or 20 years back, or even today. So one of the mantras of running this innovation is basically fail fast. You guys have heard of this very, very well. And this is what my team does day in and day out. What I wanted to tell here and talk about here is that we have got lots of ideas flowing into the concept phase. We run them through the proof of concept and we select them. Then we do a small pilot, right? And you see the numbers coming down because they meet with failures and early failures. That's exactly what we need. And then finally what comes out at the end, we scale up. And what I'm very happy to say here, and thanks to the Fujitsu team who are working every day with my team on the ground, is the first thing which came out of this side as a successful scale-up project is done by Fujitsu. We call it the Grower Connect program. How does Syngenta connect with its end-of-the-channel customer, which is our grower? So when we look at innovation, we look at the digitization and the digitalization of the current systems. What is extremely important is to understand that as we are building and constructing, we are also destroying and spoiling what exists today, right? It's very important that we understand that the demand that we have today did not exist yesterday and will be obsolete tomorrow. It's a super fast journey. We have to react to it very quickly. We have to be extremely responsive, and we have to meet what the expectation is on the customer side, right? And that requires that we have a constructive destruction as an engine running forward, killing things which are not relevant anymore and constructing things which is required today. While we're doing this, we also create a lot of disruptions, right? Disruptions are typically being brought in by new platforms and disruptive accelerators. And the two, when come together, what you get is basically a complete paradigm shift in the way that we do work. You have talked about and you have heard about the artificial intelligences, right? Artificial intelligence has got multiple levels. You have the narrow artificial intelligence, and then at the highest level of sophistication, you have the generic artificial intelligence, which is something like, you say like, how are you feeling? And you say, well, not too good. Not too good is a very, very broad answer. What do you make out of it is contextual, is situational. The generic artificial intelligence probably will be available 20 years down the line, which when you talk to this robot and say, I'm not feeling that great today, will exactly understand what you mean by that. So some of the vocabularies that I wanted to really talk about here are used regularly on digital, and I want to make sure that we convey what it means to us, because we are on this transformation journey. One is the need, and as I said just now, the need moves very fast. What we needed today did not exist yesterday, will not exist tomorrow, right? Co-creation. This is one of the mantras which we learned from Fujitsu, and this basically helped us to make it successful when we launched the Grow Connect program. We connected with the business, we connected with the architects, with the IS, we connected with the legal also, because when we develop this solution and take this solution to the market, there is a legal aspect to this one. We brought them in right on day one to work with us together. And we didn't stand there or stop there. We brought in our other partners, and we made sure that in the same room, they're all sitting, they're all talking together, they're understanding the complete picture, and they know what are they supposed to contribute to make it successful. This is a completely integrated game. I talk about 3I. What I mean by 3I is, this is basically the secret of success in the digital world. The very first thing is increase. You have to increase the reach to your customer. The second I is innovation. Whatever you do, you have to innovate, because otherwise there's somebody who is catching up on you. And the third I is isolate. You have to isolate your competitors. Very often I see, when I work with other CIOs, I'm advisor to many other CIOs in India and across Asia Pac, and when I talk to them, I see that they are addressing things which are more technological. What they forget is they are still in the battle, on the field, competing with the competitors. So there has to be a strategy that how do I leverage digital to shut off my competitor and make sure that my customers and my revenue and my profit is guaranteed, because somebody has already invested in your organization and you have the promise to pay them back. Urgency. Digital at the speed that it is requires urgency. You just can't get into strategy meeting for 7 days, 10 days and come out, and then after 6 months you have a follow-up meeting. That's not going to work. It has to be very responsive, quick turnaround, and immediate. So urgency is very important. What is important in digital also is a speed which is exponential. Now there is a problem with having this exponential word over here. The problem is exponential is something that we don't feel comfortable with. Our brain doesn't. Okay? You take any curve. Okay? Take this curve over here. You take a small piece from here, right? From this curve, it looks like linear, and that's exactly the fault in our brain. Okay? When we look at exponential stuff, we still think it's linear. We think, what should we expect tomorrow and day after? We don't think, what should we expect twice the number of days from today, and then twice from that, and twice from that. We don't do that. Our brain cannot accept that one. But we need to get used to this one, at least on the paper. Repurposing. How do you take your organization to the next level? Are you going to throw off all of you guys? Is it possible? Is it sustainable? Is it fair? Of course not. How do you take your crowd? How do you take your family inside the organization, retool them, repurpose them, retrain them, so that they support you through this entire journey? That's very, very essential. Digital is very cheap most of the time, right? And which means that the entry barrier has come down. So you are exposed, you're more vulnerable today than you were when you had the brick and mortar kind of a business. Automation is an extreme requirement in the digital world, because the amount of data which will be generated, you cannot handle that data manually. So you need the machines sitting behind and crunching the numbers, getting the insights and telling you, hey, look, this is how your business looks like today. But it will also tell you that this is what you're supposed to act upon, and here is the action that you need to take. So that's the intelligence, and that's what will be achievable through the automation. And finally, it's about the control. I don't know how many of you realize, but I did realize that in a digital journey, actually the shift which is happening is the control going away from us as a provider into the hands of the consumer. It's a complete shift, it's a paradigm change brought in by digital. So, with this, let me try to sketch a future which is not very far off, just a couple of years, 3 years down the line. Okay? We will be having about 8 billion people walking on this planet. 4 billion of them will be connected. We already are connected. If you try to understand how your life works, you are not singular anymore. You're connected with the device, with the internet, to a server, to another page, right? And that's how you work. So you work, your intelligence has gone beyond your physical limit of your body, right? There will be 30 million apps sitting there 3 years down the line. 30 billion embedded systems, right? Systems are being embedded even in human beings today. We started that even 10 years back. You get the stents inside your heart or in the artery, the stents come with the microprocessor. It controls, it knows how much to regulate and how much of amount to be deposited into your bloodstream. There will be 200 million robots walking on this earth, okay? Some of them will walk, some of them will sit beside you, some of them will be inside your pocket, some of them will be inside your car, and that's how it's going to be. And 50 trillion gigabytes of data. The point is, what do we do with this data? That's essential. What responsible action do we take out of this data which we have generated? We have generated the data ourselves in the organization. We have collected the data from across other organizations, partners, other ecosystems. Now what do we do with this data? And what do we do with this data ethically? Okay. So with this, I would like to close my presentation, but I would like you guys to take a look at this one. This is our world. This is our home. And this is beautiful. But the kind of situations that we have today in the world, the disasters that we have, the shortages, the over-leverage that we have, it is very difficult to keep this world beautiful. But it's our responsibility to keep it beautiful, right? Digitalization, I believe, gives us an opportunity to do that. Digitalization is going to reduce the carbon footprint. You will reduce the utilization of the conventional energy or the source of energy. We will connect ourselves, all the 4 billion people on this earth, and act as one large species, more intelligent, more powerful, to drive our future, to make sure that we pass on this beautiful world to our kids so that they can pass this over to the next ones. Thank you.